Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name's Chrissy Hodges. I'm the host of Mental Illness Matters Radio, where sometimes we go to Google Chat just so we can have some video footage when we're talking about mental illness, because I think sometimes the image that we're trying to portray is that normal, everyday people suffer with mental illness. It's not the myths that you think are, which, by the way, if you join us this Thursday night in Denver for Ignite Denver, you'll get to find out a lot of myths from yours truly. Woohoo! As my 5-minute presentation is going to talk a little bit about my type of OCD, but also other myths about mental illness. That I did not plan on advertising for Ignite that early, but the segue was just there. So what am I going to do? Anyway, what this show does is we try to break down all the stigma surrounding mental illness by using personal stories, lived experience, and what I like to call experts on the topic of mental illness. And why are we experts? Because we've lived it and we live it, and it's all based on our own personal experience. As you know, recently we've been doing some really fun stuff with the show, a little bit more than just storytelling, bringing people on with other opinions, and just having a little bit more fun with mental illness in the media. So I am going to start on a sour note, sorry, but the mental illness fail of the week happened to happen to me last week, and Kat's going to be joining us later, and she was there to witness this. The mental illness fail of the week is this. I went to buy a bottle of wine. If any of you know me, you know that I do that often, and I usually have a glass of wine while I'm doing the broadcast. And I was buying this bottle that it's Otto's Constant Dream, and on the back it has OCD and highlighted in letters. And I was like, oh my God, OCD! And so we got up to the front, and I was buying it, and I think that's when I kind of freaked out, and I was like, this is so awesome. And I said something she said, what? And I said something to the girl like, I'm about to go talk about OCD at the Ignite Denver rehearsal. And she went, oh, are you OCD? And I was like, no, I'm not OCD. I'm not so OCD. I have OCD. So it just, every time that happens, it always makes me feel like, how many more people do we have to tell? But hopefully I will be telling a room full of people, sold out crowd at the Oriental Theater Thursday night, that no one there is so OCD, and neither am I. So on that note, I would like to bring in someone who I am super excited to have on the show. She's been on the show before, and we've been talking over the last weeks and months about pairing up and teaming up and energizing the show, this show that you're watching right now, and have her come on as a guest host and talk about her experience and bring her a level of expertise to all the different topics we're going to start looking at each week. So, Kat, I'm going to have you come on and introduce yourself, whatever you want to say, whatever fun facts you want to say. I know you have a lot of them.
Oh.
So go ahead and tell the world, who are you?
Hi, everybody. World. Jazz hands. I'm Kat, and I'm a friend of Chrissy's. We met through This Is My Brave, and I'm also hosting at Ignite Denver, and I've been doing that for several years. And this one's way cool because Chrissy's not kidding. We're gonna sell this one out, which is crazy because it's over 400 seats. And the fact that Chrissy gets to talk about breaking stigma is just amazing. I just get to be silly. Also amazing. Other things about me. I've got nothing. I have a fan blasting on me from like boobs down right now because I was nervous, so I'm sweating. And, and I have about 4 different kinds of lipsticks on my mouth, and I didn't want to wipe it off because then you'd have like weird clown smear. So there you go. There's the intro I know you were dying to have.
We went through what kind of lipstick she was wearing before the show. Maybe I should have gone live then. So if you're curious, you would know now, and you would run out and buy it.
Right. Yeah.
So, Kat, bringing you onto the show for me, I've been doing this show pretty solo for the last, 3 years, and I've learned so much more about every disorder possible and just so much about myself and stigma and truly what people go through on a daily basis, and especially when it comes to stigma. And that journey has been incredible. But, as I told you and my listeners recently, I just need some more energy and some more inspiration. I've moved into a kind of a phase in my career in advocacy, more of dealing with some of the hard topics that are out in the media and some of the myths that come along that really we need to put a voice to and start to teach people what mental illness really is and what it really looks like versus, the Jack Nicholsons and the lobotomies and the insane asylums that everybody thinks of when they think about mental illness. So Kat in particular, I think, has this incredible energy. She's hilarious. She can think off the cuff, which is good, because I'm one of those people that, oh my God, if it's silent, I have to control it. What's going on? And so this is, and just brings really great insight into, some pretty good topics. So, is there anything that you want to say, Kat, moving forward, like being part of the show, and what are your expectations, or what can the listeners expect from you?
Well, I'm super excited to be involved. First of all, I listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of articles where people do share first-person stories, which I find to be, unequivocally important. The more we share our stories, which, if you know me at all, or even if you don't, is something that I encourage all the time, can only help other people that are afraid to speak up. But I do think those of us that live with mental illness, that it's super important to talk about these things that are often stigmatized within the mental illness community. And so when Chrissy brought this up, I was just super stoked about it. And this is sort of a new medium for me. Yeah, I hope that it starts up a lot of dialogue, both within and outside of the mental illness community, because advocacy is super important, and the more we talk about it, the more walls we can break down. So, there you go.
Well, then
I like agreeing and arguing with people.
I hear you. I'm all about that too. And just so you know, we're both sitting on the floor.
Yep.
Now, I usually do videos, and I post them to my page, Mental Illness Isn't a Trend. And if you want to post a little video about how mental illness isn't a trend, please go to Facebook and post it on that page. I love getting other people's feedback, but I also love doing my own videos because I just think they're funny and have good messages. And apparently I've been sitting on the floor too much because people have been asking me, why are you always sitting on the floor? And I've been saying, because the lighting is the best in my house on the floor for some reason. But I'm moving, and so we'll see where the lighting is the best there. I may be posting videos from my deck. Who knows? But anyway, to get on to today's topic. So Kat and I had a discussion about this weeks ago, and that's how it kind of came up to talk about this first. Mental illness and medication. Woohoo!
Hey!
Probably the biggest topic or the biggest question I get when I'm doing public speaking. I don't even wait for someone to ask it anymore. I'm like, if y'all have questions, I'm going to go ahead and get one out of the way. Why don't people who have a mental illness stay on their medication? Now, this is the way this talk is going to go today. We're going to talk about some reasons why people do go off their medication, but then we're going to talk about it from the inside out. What about when people go off their medications and they kind of brag about it? Or they go off their medications and I'm like, oh, I don't have to take medicine anymore. Look at me. I'm such a winner. To me, that's equally as damaging as people who, are on medication or they're scared to tell people. And we'll get into some of those reasons too. Kat and I, we know a lot of people in the mental illness community, and sometimes you'll see people who aren't on meds, and you think, I think this person is, experiencing a relapse, or I think that, but, we think, well, we don't know that person very well, can't say anything. So maybe we'll talk about a few things that you can say and how to approach people. Maybe it's not a medication problem, or maybe it is. So what do you do? But let's first talk about some reasons why do people go off their medication? If the medication works, why the F don't you stay on it?
Yep.
What do you think, Kat?
What do I think? I think, because that in general, when people are talking about a mental illness, they look at, and I'm going to be stepping on toes, I think a lot of times they look at other sort of addictive illnesses similarly. And so that using your, it's doing this with a wine cork in my hand,
right after we're talking about addiction,
medication is somehow abusing yourself. And that until you've managed to get off your medication, like that's something you have to work to achieve, at that point you're not fixed. And that sucks, because the fact that people think they can be fixed, period, is so dumb. I shouldn't say that. I don't mean to say that to those of you that think that you're working towards being fixed. I feel bad for you. You know, if you're diagnosed with a mental illness, I think it's something to accept and grow with and allow to, you know, help develop who you are, as opposed to looking at it as some sort of shameful thing that you're being forced to take pills for. But hopefully someday you'll wake up and it'll be gone. Because that's not, I don't think, the case. What about you?
Well, I think, you know, I mean, I agree. I do think there are people that get to a point where they don't need medication, and that's awesome too. But, you know, I don't use medication a lot. But, you know, I'm on it right now, and I usually go on it at least once a year because I know my illness well enough. But you'll never see me advertising that, and you'll never see me. Oh, well, I just did. But,
lies.
You'll never see me, you know, saying, look, I don't have to take medication, neither do you, because I also know the impact of being on medication when I need it. These are some of the reasons why I talk when I'm talking about why it is people won't just stay on their medications already. And this comes directly from my own experience, especially in the early days. Because number one, we want to just believe exactly like Kat says, well, maybe one day I'm going to wake up and this will be gone. I mean, you know, I hope you do wake up and it's gone, and good luck with that. And when it happens, you know,
how.
But, you know, I think what happens is we just think, well, I want to know that I'm intelligent enough to outthink this. I mean, give me a break. You're taking on your brain, and your brain has a malfunction. So you're not going to outthink it. It's not going to happen. That's like saying, if I just really concentrate hard enough, I can cure my pancreas and I won't have diabetes anymore. That's right. Pancreas, diabetes.
No, that's kidneys. No, I don't know. We don't have diabetes.
Either way, you can't outthink an illness. And so I think what happens is that people sit here and go, I want to get to a point where I'm off my medication because that just shows that I was intelligent enough or I'm smart enough to. And I've been there, and I still sometimes will fall into that cycle. Other reasons why the side effect sucks. I mean, let's just be frank. They suck. And, you know, especially particular types of medication, I don't want to go into that. But, you know, the side effects sometimes are actually worse than your symptoms. Okay, so what do you do then? I mean, at that point, it's just a choice. Can you learn how to manage the symptoms versus being on a medication that makes you so miserable you don't want to live? I don't know. And that choice has to be yours. And then the last thing I always say is, I also say nobody wants to let anybody know that they're on psychotropic drugs, especially on a first date. That's not an icebreaker. And then lastly, and this is the one I really try to emphasize, our systems, our mental health systems are set up so people can fail. And I like to give an example of that, and then I'll stop talking, Kat, and I'll give it back to you. My example is this. When I moved from Steamboat Springs to Denver and I needed to get on medication, I was starting to relapse. I needed to find somebody. I needed to find a provider, right? So I called the 3 major mental health centers in Denver. Found out that the earliest I could get an appointment for a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, was 3 weeks. Okay. I knew exactly what medication I needed. I knew the exact dose. I could tell you all the side effects. I could tell you what it would do, right? 3 weeks. So I would have to wait for an appointment for 3 weeks. Then I had to see the psychologist 3 times before they would let me see a psychiatrist. So that's another 3 weeks. So we're at 6 weeks now. Then I'd have to wait 1 more week to see the psychiatrist. Then hopefully they'd prescribe me the drugs. It takes 3 weeks for my medication to kick in. That's 10 mother effing weeks. I would wait until the meds are in my system. And I'm on the phone. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'll be dead by then. I will commit suicide before then. And she went, well, you can go to the ER. And I said, oh, the ER. Well, I'll leave with 3 days worth of medication that takes 3 weeks to kick in. Oh, thank you for the option. And she was nice, and I didn't mean to snap at her. But I was desperate. I was desperate. I mean, can you imagine? You're like, doctor, I have heartburn. And he's like, oh, here's some medication. It'll kick in 10 weeks. Good luck with that. And have fun. It doesn't work like that. And it's bullshit. Luckily, I work in the freaking field. And I asked someone to refer me, and they did. And I was lucky. Not everybody is that lucky. Anyway, tangent. Go ahead.
I was totally on board with you. I was thinking to myself, and I'm someone, I was trying to summarize my last 10 years. I was diagnosed. I went on a whole bunch of medication. And I was not one that did a whole lot of reading about medication. I was just in that whole, just make it better. Do whatever you've got to do. Throw whatever it is in your... You're a doctor, and I'm not. So I was on a lot. And then I found out I was pregnant. And they said, no. Now you have to go off everything. And, which, believe it or not, and I am not suggesting that you get pregnant to have to get off medication. But in my situation, my hormones were a fantastic replacement for the medications that I was on. I was really mentally on point.
That is surprising.
Right, I know. And so when my daughter was born, I actually nursed her for a long time compared to a lot of people. I nursed her until she was 3. And I'd say within like the last 6 months, I could feel depression sort of setting in and recognizing that the tools that I was using were not adequate. And there was a little part of me that felt bad, like I had, like you said, like I had not overcome it by overthinking, by curing myself in my brain. But I will say since then, I am not I have anxiety and I have depression and panic. And I'm not in a place, I have not been unmedicated since then. And my daughter's now, well, she'll turn 9 next month. So, yeah, and I've tried a lot of different ones too. And, the longer that you've been diagnosed, the more aware you become. I've become more empowered, I guess, quicker to tell people when side effects do show up because some of them just suck. The zombie ones I hate in particular.
The sexual side effects.
Okay, yeah, those are not a fan. Night vision was one that kind of sucked. It was gone. Yeah, I've taken so many. I had facial numbness with one.
Oh, God.
You had to put the medicine under your tongue. I can't remember, sublingual, I think is what it's called. And it dissolved in my whole face. I'm like, this is not worth it. I can't. So, there's some give and take. But I have been on my current medications now, I think for at least 2 years. And I've been on a shitload of medications. When I go and speak at inpatient facilities, they'll often have like a big list of the medications that, are familiar for people. And I can probably like check off 80% of them. Be like, oh yeah, been there, done that. And I don't know where I was going with this, other than I've been on them continuously. There is still some shame associated with it.
Yeah.
One of my antidepressants, I keep saying, I'm gonna wean off this because I'm good enough. That was from my brain.
Yeah.
To get off this.
Well, I mean, look at the name. Okay, first of all, we need to do something about the names of these medications. Yeah. Antidepressant, antipsychotic. I mean, come on.
Yeah, antipsychotic is one.
Stabilizers.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we could be a little more positive.
Wasn't Prozac like a long time ago? Didn't they have an ad where it called it the little happy pill?
Yes, it was it the happy blue pill?
I think so, maybe.
There was this blue pill bouncing around. I was like, look, that's me.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily even make you happy. That's another thing about antidepressants. They aren't They aren't you're going to wake up and like jump out of bed and be Kimmy Schmidt and super excited about your day. It's that you don't feel empty and dead inside. That's
Right.
what it's really working to counteract. At least for me, it is.
Well, I will say that when I do get on medication when I need it, there is a moment 22 days later after I start it where I do wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I see colors again. However, the side effects of antidepressants for me when I start on them are suicidal ideation. So I go from being at bottom down to rock bottom, and I'm like, well, you just got to get through it, Chrissy. You'll only be suicidal for another 2 weeks.
You have a little calendar with X's.
Like, hallelujah! I don't want to kill myself anymore. I mean, that's how it happens, and it's awful. It's awful. The whole thing needs an overhaul.
It does. Yeah, it's difficult, and you know, I'm gonna kind of go off on the side, but another thing that's hard for me to handle is when I see a friend who's in crisis or not in crisis, but wants to get help. Somebody who's asked for help, and I suggest, you know, reaching out to your insurance if you can, asking how I can help personally, and inevitably hearing, I just don't want to go on meds. Like, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, I'm not saying everybody needs to either. And like you said, there are some folks that do wean off medication successfully, and through other therapy methods and that sort of thing, it really works out for them, and that's wonderful. I would hope, though, that like in your situation, if you do find yourself, you know, spiraling, that you don't feel like you've lost if you have to go back on your medication, because that's something that I actually fear for myself. That if I was to ever wean off meds, and at this point I've kind of succumbed is the word that came into my head first. Accepted is a better word. But you know, accepted that for my foreseeable future, I'm going to be on medication, and my side effects are minimal, which is fantastic. I'm a little bigger than I should be, but frankly, I don't know if that's medication related or the fact that I don't exercise as much. That if you can get off medication, that's great, but it's not like weight loss. You know what I mean? It's not like once you hit your goal weight, you're there.
Yeah, well, it's, you know what it's not like? It's not like diabetes 2, where, yeah, you have to go on medication and you have to start monitoring your behaviors.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that diagnosis can go away for some people.
Right, for sure.
It almost isn't like that. It doesn't go away.
Right. Yeah. Like IBS or allergies, or when you just know they're going to be there. And yeah, I have no idea where my thought was going. Good talk.
Well, I think the thing that baffles me is that when people have diseases in their body, in their physical body, and you go to the doctor and the doctor says, okay, we're going to prescribe this medication for your cholesterol, or for this heart disease you have, or whatever. And, you know, if you don't take this medication, you're going to die. You know, you're going to eventually, you know, spiral down the hill and you will die. Do people not understand that the, you know, death from mental illness is typically suicide? Yeah. Is that just not something that people think that they're capable of? So I think I just found the topic of our next show. Yeah. However,
did you guys see the light bulb overhead? It totally
I need to learn how to do that. Light bulb. But I mean, you know, suicide is what kills people from mental illness. So I don't know if people just think, and I've heard this, I don't know how many times in my job but I would never kill myself because I value life so much. Really? Okay. Because I don't value life either. But when I'm sick and I don't have any other way of understanding or relating to the world because my brain is so effed up that I can't control it. I mean, come on. I think people just think it can't get that bad until it does.
Right.
And then it's too late.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now. I'm going to pimp an author. Sarah Benincasa, who I connected with like a year and a half ago because I read a book of hers called Agorafabulous. And oh my gosh, it's so great. Anyway, she put a new book out, I think last month, maybe 2 months ago, called Real Artists Have Day Jobs. And she talks about, she lives with anxiety and depression, and she said, you know, there have been times where she's had suicidal ideation, and she thought to herself, she went through a very bad period, where she said, you know, frequently in her own mind, I want to die, but one day she woke up and actually had the thought, I want to kill myself. And that transition is the fact that she identified that is humongous.
That is huge.
But knowing that that's the kind of path, and that can happen if you have untreated mental illness through therapy, through, you know, through medication, through any number of things. But I would encourage you to read her book. I'm only on chapter 6 so far. Brilliant. But yeah, recognizing that if you do nothing, suicide is a definite possibility.
Yeah.
And because you can't outthink that or outrun that in your mind.
No. So we just found the topic of our next show.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that, or clarify, I'm not saying that every single person is going to be suicide or that everyone's going to attempt or what.
I haven't. I never have.
But I'm just letting everyone know it is a real possibility. And you may think in your mind, oh, I would never do that or whatever. And you not even that snottily. I don't know why I was snotty.
I've never been that snotty about it.
But it is a real possibility. And that is the cause of death with mental illness. That is the cause of death. So when you have a mental illness, this is what I try to tell people when I'm talking to families of people who have mental illness. Hey, just get ready, because when suicidal thoughts come up, don't freak out. It's a part of being mentally ill. It is. And it doesn't have to be scary. Look, I'm going into our next show. Okay, let me refocus. Let's address this topic really quick before we go on to, I know, 2 tangents.
I know one of them. Okay.
So let's just address this really quickly, because I know this is the question that I get a lot. We'll address this, then I want to do a little bit of promotional stuff, and then we'll go into the next 2 tangents.
Cool.
I know they're definitely cat tangents, but I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. So parents ask a lot. Okay, well, what do we do? Our kid won't take medication. My partner won't take medication, and I'm the recipient of this behavior. And how do you convince someone to take meds? Okay, I'll tell you my answer really quick. Then we'll go to Kat. The short answer is you don't. You can't. You can't force medication down someone's throat unless you court order certify it. And the way that you do that is going to go through the mental health system or in a psychiatric unit. So if that's the way you want to go, okay. But you can't force people. They have to get to a point on their own where they see the benefits. And I'm going to I'm 39, and I've been on and off medication since I was 20, since I attempted suicide. And it hasn't been until the last year and a half that I went, I'm better with meds. I just am. And I recognize the difference. And it's more important for me to be better on meds than to think I'm better not on them. And that's 19 years. And my parents didn't make me feel that way. My friends didn't, my partner didn't. It was me. So what I would suggest to parents or loved ones, if you really want them to go on meds and that's what you really think is, then give them memoirs, give them information from other people who've benefited from it, and that proclaim medication helped me versus now I don't have to take meds anymore. You don't want that to be the message. You want the message to be there's no shame in taking medication, but you can't force someone to do it. They have to come to it on their own. And so that is not the advice that you're going to want to hear. But there are things you can do in the meantime by showing people memoirs, showing people articles in support of how medication has changed lives. That's my suggestion.
Therapy.
Yeah. So what do you think, Kat?
I would certainly also encourage for people who are impacted by family members or loved ones and their inability to take medication or receive therapy or admit that something isn't okay. I have my fingers crossed because I got to remember to say something. That at that point you have to remember that your self-care comes first. And if that we'll just use me because otherwise I'm going to get weird with pronouns. Let's say that I'm your daughter, right? And I'm refusing to take medication, although I've been told this is what absolutely needs to happen for me right now with a mood stabilizer, for instance.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So, and if I don't, and I'm behaving, I'm not being honest, I'm not being reliable, I'm hurting your feelings, I'm being irrationally angry. At that point, Chrissy's right. You can't shove a pill down my throat. At that point is when you communicate how it makes you feel, and then you find yourself some help in the meantime, because a person who lives with mental illness, yeah, we go through a lot of crap, but we aren't stupid, and we still appreciate when people communicate with us honestly. God, the last thing I ever want is for people to condescend to me. Now I'm going to go back to this. So you mentioned about when you're a parent and you have a kid who needs to be on medication. This might also be another topic for another time. I'm reluctant to talk about this even. Yeah.
Light bulb.
So I have a daughter who was recently diagnosed with something, and I was told that medication would be the best approach. For just up front. It's one, I don't want to go into details, but because it's not me, but it was one of those, as soon as you start taking the medication, you are going to see a difference. It is not one of those 3 weeks titration up to it, and I would be totally lying if I didn't feel like I had that moment of, I fucked up. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking, and I'm going to guess that I'm not the only person that lives with a mental illness that has a child where you're hoping for everything that your kid is not going to have a mental illness. If they do, though, that's okay.
Yeah.
Not your fault.
And they're lucky to have you.
Right. And what a great resource that you are, and because you're involved in the treatment and maintenance of your own mental illness. Yeah, so I would say, and that's one of the things that I tell my daughter all the time is, love yourself first. And if you're in a relationship with someone who is an adult, and my daughter is young, she's going to be in 4th grade, who refuses to do it, you have to step back. You can't save people. You can try, but at the end of the day, all you can do is help yourself. I went off on a tangent too. I don't even know which. Good times. Wine's good.
So really quick before, I'm going to do a few little promotional things, but one of the things that I do want to end on that is there's always hope if you have kids or if you have a partner or if you have a loved one that has a mental illness. There's hope. There's always hope that you can help. The biggest way to help, have empathy. Figure out what it is they're worried about when it comes to medication. Okay, are they worried about the stigma? Are they worried about long-term effects? Are they worried about how the side effects? Figure these things out. Find out the information and support them. That's what we need the most. I'm going to say as a child, I have parents, but having a mental illness, me thinking, oh my God, now I'm the biggest disappointment to my family. I'm the mentally ill one. I'm the black sheep of the family. I went through that for years and years and years.
Me too.
And the thing is that what helps, have empathy. Ask them what they're afraid of. And confront it and support that. Okay, if this is how you feel, what do we do to make this better? If you're worried about the side effects, if you're worried about looking like a psycho or trying to tell people about how can I help support you? How can I help you feel better about that? They are the expert of their mental illness. You are not. Always remember that. They are, and you have to respect their decisions, but the way that you can join them in the force is support. So that's my last little thing. Quickly, I want to do, Kat's going to tell us the mental health win of the week, but just before that, I want to ask you, are you enjoying what you see? Are you excited about what we're talking about? Are you excited for our upcoming topics? Then become a listener support. This show runs off of support from my listeners, and you can donate anything from $1 to a show up. Right now I'm probably, as we get things rolling, only going to do 2 shows a month. And then we'll move forward and maybe do 4, but that's what, $2 out of your pocket. And what it does is it's supporting breaking down the stigma of mental illness. So if you're enjoying what you see, you want to be part of it, go to www.patreon.com, patreon.com/the stigma of mental illness radio. You'll see me there in a video and whatever, and you can pledge $1 or $2 or whatever else and become part of something great as we move into this movement of change for people with mental illness. Kat is going to tell us our mental health win of the week. Yay! And then we'll go on to 2 more tangents.
Right. And I'll make this quick because I realize we've been chatty. So my mental illness win of the week. A friend of mine, I've met quite a few people through another writer who goes by The Bloggess. And I believe it's just thebloggess.com, BLOGGESS.com. And she writes a lot about her own challenges with mental illness. Anyway, quite a few of us have built a community on Twitter, #Bloggess Tribe or The Bloggess Tribe. And one of the girls that I met through like a live book chat with the author lives right here in Denver. And she reached out to me last night, and we haven't spoken, we haven't met in person. And she just said, I need help. And I got on Twitter and I said, my friend needs help. She had over 99 people, because it hits 99 plus, just reaching out to her, telling her that they were to support her. What did she need? How could they help? I mean, it's just those little things that make you realize how fucking awesome people can be. Not always that they are, but these are the stories that sometimes go under the radar. I will also add to that this morning we got to meet in person.
Yay!
Which was so great. And she's doing much better today. And, because it is. You get to a moment where it really is a second-by-second experience. And even though right now might not be okay, wait a little bit and check yourself in 15 seconds and it might get better. So just knowing that people can come together to lift each other up, and even if you don't know the person, you can help them, that was our win.
Excellent. Joining the movement, the reality of people who have mental illness that aren't afraid to step out and say, I've experienced this, I'm here to support you. This is what we're all about.
Yep.
We've got 18 minutes left, and we've got 2 important things to talk about, so I'll just go ahead and broach the first topic. But before that, I'm going to let you know, if you're in the Denver area Thursday night, please come out to Ignite.
Buy tickets soon.
Buy tickets. What?
Buy tickets online. There is a significant possibility we will not have tickets available the night of the event. IgniteDenver.org/tickets.
You better be there. It's the hot place to be. It's at the Oriental Theater. It's Thursday night. It's going to be so much fun. You're going to learn so much great things, but I will say the best thing you're going to learn is myths of mental illness. And about animals and pets, which is what Kat's going to talk about.
And let me mention this too. For those of you that aren't in Denver or are but can't make it, it is going to be live streamed for free through the website, ignitedenver.org. Okay, back to you.
Yes. Hell yes. All right. So hope to see you there, or hope that you're going to go live and watch us online. I'll go ahead and throw that out to y'all on my Facebook page before that too. But let's get back to our topic of mental illness and medication. Now, Kat and I have talked about this before, and we briefly talked about it at the beginning, and this is, why is it that people congratulate other people when they go off their medication? Like they've surmounted this thing, and look, you did it. You got past your mental illness. Mm-hmm. Oh, yay, warm and fuzzies. Oh, give me a break. And first of all, it's okay. That's fine. And I think it's great if you can live off of your medication with mental illness, or live off of your medication with diabetes or heart disease or whatever. But we have enough problems with the stigma of mental illness without you, part of the mental health community, saying, look at me, look at me. Maybe you can do it. What? Come on.
Yep.
Elaborate.
Smiling so that I don't say something inappropriate. But it's very difficult when you hear people, like Chrissy said, within our community, are like, hey, guess what? I'm finally off meds. Finally. And then I've been this, oh, well, congratulations. For the same reason that I could tell you, you know what? I've gone 6 months without skipping a single day of meds. I should be just as excited about that. It's not, I was trying to come up with an illness other than diabetes type 1 where people have to take medication. I'm like, okay, what is it? Because for a lot of them, as being an overweight person, I've taken medication before briefly for my cholesterol. One of my side effects of one of my medications is that I have to be on blood pressure medication. A lot of them have to do with weight loss. But I think to myself, if I ever made it to my goal weight, a lot of these medications would go away. Maybe not. Epilepsy. That's the one that I came up with while we were sitting here thinking about
asthma. Sean David has asthma. Sean David's my partner. Okay, thanks, Sean. And sorry, I'm outing you in the asthma. I don't know how much shame there is with asthma. He says there is some, but either way, he has to take medication every single day.
Right. You can't work your way through asthma or work your way through epilepsy. I mean, yes, you can adapt your diet. You could move to a different climate. I mean, there are things that you can do. Even with mental illness, there are things that you can do. Exercise more. Be aware of what you're putting into your body.
Yes.
Certainly be aware of who you are surrounding yourself with and what kind of energy, right?
Yes.
But, I mean, high-fiving somebody for being, done, or, wow, everybody gets over-medicated these days. Thank goodness you're not one of those people anymore.
What kind of bar are we setting to?
Right.
Oh, look, my colleague or my advocacy partner or someone, they're med-free, and I'm not, so I must suck.
Right.
Like, what? You can't.
Right. I'm not trying hard enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand it, and I think but one of the things on a more, because I know that we could rant about this on a tangent for a long time, but one of the more positive kind of solution focused things I want to look at is, okay, what do we do? What do we do when someone is in a position where they have gotten to a point where they're off meds and, oh, look at me, but all of a sudden they're a hot mess, and you're going, why didn't you stay on your medication? Or is this an option for you to go back on your medication? So this is so what do you do? And this is interesting considering earlier I said you can't force people to go on medication. So what do we do when that happens, especially when it's one of our own, people that we are, in advocacy with, or we're because it's such a small community, the mental health community. And
well, I don't think it's a small community. I think it's a small community that will openly talk about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Thank you. Point me.
So, I mean,
competition, by the way, in case you weren't aware. Yeah. Anyway, back to you.
If you saw someone, okay, let's take us, for example.
Sure.
If it were me, and hell, I've had this happen to me, just so you know. Although, okay, this is walking a fine line. Oh my God, light bulb. Another topic is just because I'm emotional doesn't mean I need to up my meds.
Oh shit. Yep.
And so I mean, we really need to do that because I need people to hear that know me. But the thing is that I think there's a difference in someone coming to you and saying, oh, you seem really angry. Maybe you should go on meds. Or really knowing someone and watching someone, a friend or family member, and knowing, hey, I know that they're not on their medication anymore, and I'm really starting to see some symptoms. because they've disclosed it to me before or whatever. How can you approach somebody? What can you say? What can you do to help versus hurt them or put them back in a position that makes them feel less than if they have to go on their meds? But fuck it. You can't. That's the thing. The problem here is that you can't just portray it as, well, I've gone off my meds. Yay, life is good. Because the chances of you having to go back on meds are what? 99%?
At some point in time, yeah. And you know what? I'll even add to that. In some situations, it's not a matter of you went off your meds and now your behavior is enough that your friends are noticing. I had a situation where I had not gone off my meds. But as those of you might learn if you are newly diagnosed or if you've been diagnosed for quite some time, there is a point at which sometimes your medication will stop being effective, and it's time to reevaluate what's happening. I went through a period about 2 years ago where suddenly my hypomania was really making me feel like I could do anything I wanted. And I mean, really, anything I wanted. Which is, I shouldn't say it's great, but it certainly felt that way for me at the time. I didn't think anything really noticed. Right. My charismatic qualities were like, here. And I'm fortunate enough that I had some friends approach me, and they're like, hey, what's going on? You want to maybe meet with your doctor? And because at that point, I was not suicidal. I was not empty. I was not devoid of emotion. I was at the other end. And it wasn't because I had gone off meds. So, I mean, it's not limited to going off meds, although both Chrissy and I have seen individuals, different people, who have, and for me it's difficult because a lot of times I don't know these people well enough, but I know how to identify questionable behaviors for me that I don't, who do you talk to? Who do you bring it up to?
Yeah.
How well do you have to know someone to say, hey, what are you doing for yourself right now? It's awkward. I don't even know what I could compare it to.
Well, I would say that if it were me, and I've had this happen before, sometimes I forget that meds are an option, and to have someone, but it has to be careful. You have to be careful. Like I mean, and you have to have someone that can come to you and say, listen, I'm going to show you what I've noticed. Tell me find out what the person's going through first, because you can't assume that someone's life is falling off the rails because of medication or non-medication. What if something else is going on and they're really just struggling? And so I would say offer some support, find out what it is they're going through first, and then offer some support for that.
Ask questions, for sure.
Yes, and then ask, can I make some suggestions? Can I make, based on what you've told me, what are my limits? Do I have an opportunity to say some things that may help? Which is going to include, it's always going to include, when someone's going through a hard time, therapy is always going to be an option for anybody, not just people who have mental illness, anybody. So therapy, but I think you need to know that you're that trusted person that can say that. I have this many people, maybe this many, that could say that to me without me being like, you don't really care enough. You don't care enough to actually care about my well-being. You just want to be right.
Right. So
that's a good point. I just made a good point, and I'm going to acknowledge that I made a good point.
High five you.
Is that you need to make sure that you're that person that can say things to someone that they're not going to go, that they can trust. And they're not going to think, okay, you just want to be right because you think that's the way to go. There are seriously a few people in my life that can do that. And I'm assuming that's probably the way it is for most people who've been through something as traumatic as a mental illness. So that would be my thing. If you are afraid that someone is falling into symptoms and you don't think you're that person, who is that person? Go talk to that person and say, hey.
And find resources and ask experts what they suggest.
Yes.
Because you're offering to help in a non-judgmental way. You're not trying to fix. At least that's how I would want someone to approach me, if I was to start exhibiting those.
Right. I think we just solved that problem.
Right. You guys are fixed. Good talking to you. Have a great day. You're
All right, we have just a few more minutes. Only a few.
Right.
Kat wants to tell you something that she doesn't like when it comes to advertising.
Oh, I get to talk about this.
You got 6 minutes.
Okay. Here's one thing that I hate, and I watch the Game Show Network a lot. I will not save myself for my love of Steve Harvey. I watch the Family Feud a lot, and I will tell you, at every commercial break, almost, there is always one for an antidepressant that's like, are you sad? Are you having a bad time?
Does that mean that people who watch Family Feud?
Apparently they're sad. You know, have you considered talking to your doctor about taking blah, 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 that rhymes with fatuda? And it's like, right, because empower a total idiot. Again, that was a wrong choice of words. Empower someone that is struggling by saying you just need to call and tell them that this is the medication you want. I have a love-hate relationship with pharmaceutical companies. I understand that you want to help people, and I understand that you want to make money. I understand that line gets crossed way too often, and I don't think you should have commercials. But if you want to sell your shit, do it to the doctors that know how side effects and know what those medications will do for people. Because if I have somebody who's never been diagnosed with anything show up and say, hey, I need to be, you need to write me a prescription for Snowzac and Schmabilify. Yeah, because they have these cutesy little commercials, the happy little blue pill and whatnot. It just pisses me off. It's like cigarette commercials, which, thank God, are not on the air anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I love pharmaceutical companies for helping me maintain my health, but I hate you for trying to make money off my illness.
Right.
And I'm sorry about that, and thank you.
It's okay. I mean, I think that the only reason why I think they could be good is, what if someone doesn't know that they're mentally ill or doesn't know that they're experiencing depression or anxiety, and they do see a commercial? You know, the only thing I could think is that would be a way to say, wow, is there something that could help me?
Right. Not necessarily this specific name brand medication. I would love to have commercials from nonprofits. God knows they have so much spare money lying around to put commercials out that just say, you know what, are these things that you're dealing with? And, reach out to a free helpline, or, those kind of lower tier tools that you can use.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's not where we're at right now. But through doing what we're doing, hopefully we'll change that. And the work that you're doing, Chrissy, which is so admirable, I hope that does change.
And you too. Thank you. So we've concluded our first show. Woo!
Yeah.
Hope you've learned something today, and hope that you've taken something away. I don't mean learned like we're educators, but just, I think we're all in this together, and we're all trying to figure things out together. Every person has different experiences when it comes to mental illness, but one of the things that I have learned over the years in my advocacy is so many of us feel the same way about stigma, and we feel the same way about wanting to get issues out, and we want people to feel less alone, and we want people to join the cause and speak out, just like Kat was saying, this community of people that reached out to this girl. I mean, would that have happened 20 years ago without a lot of shame? Probably not.
No.
And now it is. We're in the middle of it. We want you to join. We want you to be part of it. We want you to share your lived experience and your story. Just so you know, you can contact me. At some point, I'm going to figure out how to do these, and then all of a sudden, it's going to come through here and be like, OCD.
You have, the words on the bottom? Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. One day. But anyway, if you want to contact me, ocd.chrissie@gmail.com. If you have a topic, if you want to come on and talk about something, if you want to give your opinion, if you want to give some feedback, good or bad, please feel free. Also, you can find me at Mental Illness Matters Radio on Facebook. You can see me Thursday night talking about busting myths of mental illness at Ignite Denver at the Oriental Theater. Go get your tickets. At what, Cap?
IgniteDenver.org.
Woo! We want to see you there. We want you to support a local event that's really changing people's minds about all kinds of things. There'll be all kinds of topics. It's not just mental health.
Not just mental illness. It's topics that people are passionate about. So you learn. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while now. And I keep doing it because I learn so much about people and about things that I've never considered before. I think it's a phenomenal program. I wouldn't be involved with it if blah, 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 blah. Back to Chrissie.
Well, I want to leave you with a quote for today, but also if you like what you're hearing, if you want to hear more, if you want to be a sponsor, please go to www.patreon.com, patreon.com/the Mental Illness Radio /the Stigma of Mental Illness Radio. And become a sponsor. And what you're doing there is helping to keep this going. It's helping to grow a population of people who can listen and hear and expand what mental illness really is, what we can do with mental health, and really break down the issues. Kat, I want to thank you for being here today.
I'm so grateful. I can't wait to do this again.
I know. It's going to be awesome. I already can tell. It's going to be a great thing, and I'm excited to have you here. I'm going to leave with a quote. And I used this at my group this last week with the people I work with at Fort Logan Institution, and that is Mr. Bob Ross, who does the paintings with the big hair. Love him. Bob says, "We do not make mistakes. We have happy accidents." So take forth into your week. Remember, you're only having a happy accident if you make a mistake. Thanks for tuning in today. You're listening to Mental Illness Matters Radio. You can find any other episodes at blogtalkradio.com/mental illness matters. And you can find more information about me at Mental Illness Matters Radio on Facebook. Hope you have a good week. You've been listening to Mental Illness Matters Radio, where we're changing the way people view mental illness, one personal story at a time. Bye.
Bye.